There's a quiet epidemic happening in millions of bodies right now, and most people don't even realize it's taking place. Muscle isn't just about strength or appearance, it's your body's metabolic engine. It helps regulate blood sugar, protect your bones, stabilize your joints, and even defend your brain against cognitive decline. What's shocking is how quickly and silently muscle can begin to vanish. Studies show that after age 30, we start losing up to 3 to 5% of our muscle mass per decade, and after 60, that rate accelerates dramatically, leading to a condition called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. But here's the crucial part most people miss. This isn't just about aging. It's also about missing key nutrients, especially one specific food group that could dramatically slow or even reverse this decline. Let me be clear, this isn't a hyped-up superfood speech. What we're going to explore is based on hard science, clinical trials, cellular biology, and neuroscience, all pointing to the same thing. Your muscles require more than protein. They need specific anabolic signals that come from what you eat, when you eat it, and how your body is primed to absorb it. Surprisingly, most people are skipping the one food that may be the most essential to preserving muscle, tissue strength, and neural drive. This food not only feeds your muscles, but fuels the brain-muscle connection, supports mitochondrial health, and triggers pathways responsible for rebuilding tissue. If you've noticed your legs feeling weaker when walking upstairs, or you're recovering more slowly after workouts, or even if you're simply concerned about staying strong, mobile, and sharp as you age, this conversation is for you. Because the truth is, muscle loss isn't inevitable. In many cases, it's not just about how much you lift or how much protein you consume. It's about whether your body is receiving the right signals to build and preserve lean mass. Today, we'll unpack the neuroscience, physiology, and nutrition behind this process, zeroing in on the food you might be missing that could make all the difference. We begin with an often overlooked aspect, neural drive. When we think about muscle loss, the common image is shrinking muscle tissue, smaller arms, thinner legs, weaker grip. But what if I told you the real issue often starts higher up in the brain before muscle fibers begin to atrophy? There's a drop in something called neural drive, the brain's ability to activate muscles through the spinal cord and motor neurons. In other words, your nervous system starts forgetting how to use certain muscle fibers long before those fibers waste away. This is one of the most overlooked aspects of muscle health and fundamentally changes how we think about prevention and treatment. The neuroscience behind this shows that your ability to contract a muscle begins with the motor cortex, which sends an electrical signal down your spinal cord to a group of motor neurons. These neurons then branch out and stimulate specific muscle fibers, causing them to contract. This process is automatic but also trainable, and unfortunately degradable with age or disuse. Research published in the Journal of Physiology in 2019 shows that in older adults, the number of functioning motor units, meaning a motor neuron and the muscle fibers it controls, begins to decline significantly by the 6th decade of life. This loss affects not just strength but also precision, coordination, and explosiveness. You might have felt like you trip more often or your legs aren't responding as quickly on stairs. That's not just muscle, it's a neural lag, compounded by the loss of neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, essential for muscle contraction, and dopamine, which modulates effort, motivation, and motor control. Low dopamine levels, often associated with aging and stress, can reduce your willingness to move, creating a feedback loop. Less movement leads to weaker neural pathways, which leads to more muscle decay. Here's the big insight: muscle loss isn't just physical decay, it's a kind of neural forgetting. Your brain begins to stop recruiting certain muscle fibers because it no longer perceives them as relevant. So, what can you do? The first step is to reawaken these neural pathways through high-quality, low-load activation movements even before lifting weights. Research from the Neuroplasticity and Motor Control Lab at McGill University shows that mentally focusing on contracting specific muscles without weights can increase cortical excitability and improve muscle recruitment over time. A simple practice is starting your day with 3 to 5 minutes of neuromuscular priming. Deliberately performing a movement like calf raises, glute squeezes, or slow marching while fully focusing on the muscle you're activating. Combining this with nasal breathing engages the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing inflammation. When you do this, your brain is activating neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize itself, specifically in the motor cortex. This sets the foundation for reconnecting with muscle fibers that may have gone offline due to disuse, injury, or age. You can also enhance this effect with visual and auditory cues. Watching a video of someone performing the movement while you mentally rehearse it, known as action observation, has been shown to increase motor cortex activity. Athletes recovering from injury often use this technique to retain motor skills when physical training isn't possible. And this is applicable at any age. The key takeaway to keep your muscles, you must keep the brain's connection to them active. Think of your nervous system as the software and your muscles as the hardware. If the software stops updating, the hardware slowly breaks down. Next, let's explore how your diet influences muscle maintenance, especially the role of specific amino acids. While most advice emphasizes protein intake, not all proteins are equal in building muscle. Your body primarily uses amino acids, particularly essential amino acids EAs, to drive muscle growth. Among these, leucine plays a starring role. Found in high concentrations in animal-based complete proteins like eggs, fish, and grass-fed beef, leucine directly activates a molecular switch inside your cells called mTOR. When mTOR is activated, your body enters an anabolic state, meaning it gets the biochemical green light to build muscle rather than break it down. Without sufficient leucine, this signaling is weak or absent, even if your total protein intake seems adequate. To put this into perspective, eating 25 grams of plant protein from brown rice might provide only about 1.5 grams of leucine, while 2 eggs and a small piece of salmon could supply 3.5 to 4 grams of leucine, firing the mTOR pathway. If you've been relying solely on plant-based proteins and notice your muscle strength or recovery isn't improving, it's because the anabolic signals aren't being adequately triggered. This doesn't mean plant diets can't support muscle growth. They require more careful planning, often including EA supplementation, to match the leucine content of animal proteins. As you age, your muscles become more resistant to these signals, a phenomenon called anabolic resistance, making it even more critical to ensure sufficient leucine intake. Research from Dr. Stuart Phillips's lab at McMaster University shows that older adults need about 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein per meal to achieve the same anabolic response that younger individuals reach with just 20 grams. Therefore, your protein needs increase with age, and sourcing leucine-rich foods becomes more vital. It's also important to recognize that muscle maintenance isn't solely about what happens in the gym, it's about what signals your body through food. Meals lacking the amino acids necessary to activate mTOR may lead your body into a catabolic state, breaking down muscle tissue for energy. So ask yourself, are your meals just feeding your body, or are they instructing it to build and repair muscle? Food is not merely fuel, it's information. Animal-based proteins carry some of the most potent biological signals your body can use. Now, let's turn to the cellular pathway that governs muscle growth, mTOR. This is your body's internal switch for growth, standing for mechanistic target of rapamycin, a protein that regulates cell growth, metabolism, and regeneration. Think of it like a molecular foreman. When activated, it signals your cells to build muscle, store nutrients, and grow. But like any foreman, it only works if it receives clear signals. The 3 main triggers are mechanical load, resistance training or muscular tension, insulin and growth factors that indicate energy and nutrients are available, and amino acids, especially leucine. Importantly, mTOR's responsiveness depends heavily on context. It won't activate if your body is under stress from illness, sleep deprivation, or caloric restriction. When mTOR is active, satellite cells, the stem cells of muscle tissue, are recruited to fuse with existing fibers, repairing microscopic damage and laying down new protein strands, fundamental to hypertrophy or muscle growth. If mTOR isn't activated regularly, your body drifts into a catabolic state, slowly dismantling lean tissue. This is why people lose muscle during extended fasting, bed rest, or chronic stress. To keep mTOR functioning optimally, follow a simple protocol supported by research. Consume a leucine-rich meal, around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, within 1 to 2 hours after workouts, and engage in resistance training that creates enough tension and fatigue. Avoid undereating, especially if you're over 50, because your threshold for mTOR activation is higher. Timing also matters. Research shows mTOR activity follows a circadian rhythm, being more responsive earlier in the day, late morning to early afternoon, when your hormones and cellular machinery are primed for growth. Therefore, aligning your most leucine-rich meal or workout within this window can amplify the growth signals. A practical approach involves eating 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at breakfast and lunch, such as eggs, salmon, or lean meats, and scheduling resistance training at least 3 times weekly, focusing on major muscle groups. Post-workout, have your largest protein meal within 1 hour, and keep your evening meal lighter and earlier to promote autophagy and better sleep. This signals your body that it's safe to build, time to grow. Conversely, certain foods and habits can block mTOR activation, hindering muscle growth. Chronic high blood sugar caused by high glycemic foods like white bread or sugary cereals leads to insulin spikes, which, when persistent, cause insulin resistance. This impairs mTOR signaling, meaning your muscles can't respond properly despite adequate leucine intake. Inflammatory foods, seed oils, processed meats, refined carbs compound this problem by creating a low-grade inflammatory state that suppresses muscle protein synthesis. To support optimal signaling, start your meals with protein and fiber, which slow glucose absorption, blunt insulin spikes, and keep mTOR responsive. Replace seed oils with healthier fats like olive or avocado oil, which nourish without inflammation. When you stabilize blood sugar and reduce inflammation, you also improve dopamine sensitivity, boosting motivation to move, train, and build habits. After all, feeling sluggish after a processed meal isn't just in your head. It's your brain interpreting metabolic stress and down-regulating drive. Poor sleep also undermines muscle recovery. A single night of disrupted sleep can reduce testosterone by up to 15% and lower growth hormone pulses, both critical for muscle repair. When your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is in high alert from stress, deep sleep is compromised, impairing hormone release and muscle rebuilding, like trying to build a house during a storm. To combat this, create a wind-down routine before sleep, dim lights, no screens, gentle stretching or reading. Use breath work like a physiological sigh, 2 inhales through the nose, followed by a long exhale to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and lower cortisol. Timing your last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bed and making it lighter and lower in protein also supports deep sleep and recovery. Morning sunlight, just 10 minutes, anchors your circadian rhythm, improving sleep quality and cortisol regulation. When your biological clock is well regulated, your body naturally shifts into recovery mode, making muscle growth more effective. Recovery itself is an active process, not just rest. Training hard, eating well, and then being under stress or lacking sleep prevents your muscles from growing. Elevated cortisol from stress hormones hampers recovery. 3 evidence-backed tools can help you. First, wind down before sleep with low stimulation activities. Second, practice breath work or physiological sighs to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Third, time your meals wisely lighter in the evening, avoiding heavy carbs or fats near bedtime. And don't forget the power of natural light. Morning sunlight helps regulate your circadian rhythm, supporting better sleep and muscle recovery. Finally, the most surprising insight is that your mindset, the beliefs you hold about yourself, can influence your biology. Neuroscience shows that your thoughts and beliefs, governed by your prefrontal cortex, can modulate downstream physiological responses. A 2007 Harvard study found that hotel workers told their daily tasks met exercise recommendations experienced weight, blood pressure, and body fat improvements, even without changing their behaviors, simply because their beliefs changed. When you see building muscle as part of your identity, I am someone who trains to stay strong. Rather than just a goal, your brain engages deeper decision, making and habit formation, reinforcing long-term change. Repetition and emotion strengthen neuroplasticity. The more meaningful and consistent a behavior, the more your brain rewires itself. This is where muscle and mindset truly meet. You're not just lifting weights. You're lifting your biology rep by rep, thought by thought. You're telling your brain and body that you are capable, resilient, and committed to growth. Remember, if your muscles are slipping away or your strength is vanishing, it's not too late. It's never too late, but it does require consistency and a shift in how you see yourself. Let's bring this full circle. The missing piece isn't just one food or one habit. It's creating an ecosystem, a system where your body can grow and thrive. That ecosystem includes your nutrition, nervous system, beliefs, routines, and environment. The good news is you don't need a complete overhaul. Just start with one habit, one food, one belief. Tonight, I challenge you to add one fermented or deeply colored plant to your dinner. Kimchi, sauerkraut berries, arugula, and give your microbiome something to work with. Then sleep with intention, breathe slowly, stretch, remind yourself, I am someone who builds. Do this day after day, and your biology will follow. If this message resonated with you, and you've learned something not just about your muscles, but about your mind, body, and what's possible, I invite you to like this video, comment about the habit you're committing to, and subscribe to join a community dedicated to transforming lives with science. This is just the beginning. Let's keep building one cell, one thought, one rep at a time.